Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And today I'm making NFL Week 18 picks, so let's hop into it. And if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me. But anyway, this is the last week in the NFL regular season. Last week, my record was a forgettable 8-8, which brings my overall record to 151 and 105. So hopefully we finish out this season strong with these Week 18 picks. And before I get started, 9 of the 14 playoff spots have been clinched, and there is 11 teams fighting for the remaining 5 spots. So I will touch on the games that do have playoff importance this week, but let's just hop into the picks. And on Saturday, our first of 2 Saturday games at 4:30, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at the Baltimore Ravens. And I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game. Baltimore, with their win over Miami last week, locked up the AFC North. They locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC, so there's really no reason for the Ravens to play in this game. They should be resting all their starters. They haven't came out and said that they're resting starters, but they definitely should. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they're still in the hunt with a 9-7 record. A right here coupled with like a Bills loss would get them into the playoffs. So the Steelers, this is a must-win game for them. And with Mason Rudolph and the Steelers offense performing pretty decent these past few weeks, they should definitely be able to take care of business against Baltimore's twos. Like, for crying out loud, if Kenny Pickett could beat Baltimore, I don't see any reason why Mason Rudolph can't. But I still have the Steelers winning this game, staying alive for now in the playoff picture. Some other things have to happen for them to get in, but they keep their chances alive for one more day with a 20-17 win over the Ravens. And then moving on to our second Saturday game. This is a Saturday night game. It is a huge AFC South battle. The 9-7 Houston Texans on the road at the 9-7 Indianapolis Colts. And I do have the Houston Texans winning this game. This game right here is a classic win and you're in situation. The winner of this will be guaranteed a wild card spot. And if the Jaguars lose on Sunday, the winner of this game will actually win the AFC South and host a playoff game. So huge implications on the line. And with the Texans getting CJ Stroud back last week, that just improves their chances all the more. The Colts, they're having an incredible year with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I know a lot of people wrote the Colts off at the beginning of the season, but they definitely had a surprise year. Nothing to be ashamed of, but I think they just fall short. They lose to the Texans by a final score of 31-27. And then moving on over to our Sunday slate of games, we have the Battle of Ohio. We have the Cleveland Browns on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals, and I do have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game. The Bengals, they lost to the Chiefs last week. They got eliminated from the playoffs. The Browns, they beat the Jets on Thursday Night Football and clinched the number 5 seed, the number 1 wild card. So really, neither one of these teams has anything to play for. The Browns already said they're resting starters, so I expect no Myles Garrett, probably no Joe Flacco, no Amari Cooper. So the Browns definitely want to just finish out the year with no more injuries. They're one of the most injured teams in the league this year. And with them not playing any of their starters in this game, I don't see them going into Cincinnati and winning. So the Bengals win. They improved to 9-8. Finish the year off with a win, while the Browns just heal for their playoff run that they're about to go on. So I do have the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game by a final score of 27-16. Then moving on over to the NFC North, we have the Minnesota Vikings on the road at the Detroit Lions, and I do have the Detroit Lions winning this game. The Vikings, they lost to the Packers last week, and while they're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they need a bunch to go right. They need to win, then they need Green Bay, Seattle, and New Orleans to lose to have a chance. So a lot needs to happen for the Vikings to make the playoffs. Detroit is all but locked into the number 3 seed in the NFC. They have like a 97% chance to get it, but there is still a little bit of wiggle room for them. So I do expect them to maybe not play their starters the entire game, but to still come out and win this game. But I do think it will be pretty close, as I think they'll probably pull their starters at some point. So I do have Detroit winning by a score of 24-20. Then back on over to the AFC South, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road at the Tennessee Titans. And I do have the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this game. And because they win this game, they will win the AFC South, even though they are in a 3-way tie with the Colts and the Texans, which means the winner of the Colts and Texans would get a wild card spot. Tennessee's been eliminated for a while now, so they don't have anything to play for. Ryan Tannehill will probably be their quarterback once again for this game, as Will Levis got knocked out last week with an injury. The Jaguars should be getting Trevor Lawrence back this week. Without him, they still won 26-0 against the Panthers last week, so they played fine. So I expect them to clinch up the division right here, host a playoff game. I don't expect Tennessee to make it easy on them, as I have the final score being 28-24. And then moving on over to the AFC East, we have a game between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots, and this game has no playoff implications whatsoever. These two teams have been eliminated for a little bit now, so really this game is just playing for pride, looking on to next year. If they want a better draft stock, they could tank this game, but I actually have the New England Patriots winning. This game really means nothing, but Bill Belichick, this could potentially be his last game in New England. I know his future's still kind of blurry, so what better way to send him off with a win if this does happen to be his last year? So I'm not going to go too in depth about this game because it really doesn't matter, but I have the Patriots winning it by a final score of 20-10. And then moving on over to the NFC South, we have the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints, and this is a pretty big game as well. If Atlanta wins and Tampa Bay loses, Atlanta can get in. If the Saints win and Tampa Bay loses and a couple other things, the Saints could get in. So it's kind of messy for both of these teams, but really the loser automatically eliminated. The winner, there's still a chance for them to sneak into the playoffs. So this game is huge for both of these teams. And the Falcons, they're coming off getting absolutely destroyed by the Bears. The Saints are coming off a huge win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Saints kind of have the momentum. They should be able to carry it into this week. And I do have the Saints winning this game against the Falcons by a final score of 17-16. And then staying in the NFC South, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. A win right here by the Buccaneers will clinch them the division, and they will lock up the 4 seed in the playoffs. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Carolina, pretty disastrous year for them. They're 2-14. They're the worst team in the league. They don't even have their first round pick, which is a first overall pick that is going to Chicago. So just devastating. Maybe they can upset the Buccaneers, kind of throw a wrench in their season, but I don't see that happening. I think Tampa Bay is going to go into Carolina, get the win, lock up the division, and be ready for the playoffs. And I think it's not going to be that close. Tampa Bay, they did lose to the Saints last week. Their offense really wasn't clicking for majority of that game, but I think they just turn it around, put on a strong showing right before the playoffs, and win this one by a final score of 34-14. And then sticking in the NFC but moving up north, we have the Chicago Bears on the road at the Green Bay Packers. And this is a win and in situation for Green Bay. They need to win this game to make the playoffs. The Bears, they were eliminated last week, even though they did win. They're sitting at 7-9. They're playing really good football as of late. They even clinched the number 1 pick in this draft via Carolina's selection. So even though they're not playing for anything, there is something to look forward to here in the coming months for the Bears fans. But I think the Bears will upset the Packers. Last year, Green Bay had a very similar situation, a win and in, and they lost to the Detroit Lions. And I think the same thing's going to happen to them this year. They're going to lose to the Chicago Bears. Yes, they beat them earlier in the season, but this Bears team is playing really good right now. Their only 2 losses in their past 7 games have come on blown fourth quarter leads. So if they just stick with it, don't blow any leads, I think the Bears stand a really good chance of winning this game, knocking Green Bay out of the playoffs, and just ending their season on a super high note. So I'd have the Bears pulling off a stunner, winning in Green Bay, knocking them out of the playoffs by a final score of 26-21. And then moving back over to the AFC West, we have the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is another game with no playoff implications on the line, as both of these teams were eliminated last week. Denver does have some controversy surrounding them right now, though, as they benched Russell Wilson because he was winning them games and they wanted him to waive his injury clause. So just kind of a dirty move on Denver's part. So besides that, there's really not much going on in this game, but I do have the Raiders winning this, finishing out the season strong, and just getting the win 23-17. And then moving back over to the NFC East, we have the Philadelphia Eagles on the road at the New York Giants. The Eagles haven't been playing great. They just lost to the Arizona Cardinals. They blew that game, honestly. The Giants have been eliminated from the playoffs, so they don't really have anything to play for except just pride at this point. Philadelphia, they already clinched their playoff spot, so there's really no need to win this game. But if they do and Dallas loses, they could still win their division and get a better seed and host a playoff game. But I do think the Eagles will finish the season off strong and beat the Giants, heading into the postseason with a win by a final score of 27-17. Then moving over to the NFC West, we have the Seattle Seahawks on the road at the Arizona Cardinals, and I do have the Seattle Seahawks winning this game. They lost to the Steelers last week. The Cardinals beat the Eagles last week. So Arizona's really just owned Pennsylvania teams this year. They went into Pittsburgh, beat the Steelers, went into Philadelphia, and beat the Eagles. So even though they're 4-12, they do have some really good wins. They even beat the Cowboys. So Cardinals, despite the 4-12 record, have knocked off some pretty good teams. Seattle, they lost to Pittsburgh last week, which really hurt their postseason chances, but they are still alive, and they absolutely need to win this game against the Cardinals. They're on the outside looking in, and if Green Bay loses to the Bears, like I think might happen, then Seattle with a win would hop into a wild card spot. And I think that's just what's going to happen. So I have Seattle winning this one. A very close one, as I don't think Arizona is going to go down without a fight, but by a final score of 24-22. And then moving on over to the AFC West, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the road at the Los Angeles Chargers. In this game, there's really no implications either. The Chiefs already won the division, already locked up the number 3 playoff spot, so they can't move in the seeding wise. Chargers have been eliminated, so I do expect Kansas City to rest their starters. I expect no Patrick Mahomes. I expect no Travis Kelce as they just rest up for the playoffs, but I still see the Chiefs winning because the Chargers have not been playing good since Justin Herbert went down. It's just been a mess. So they're limping into the offseason, and the Chiefs just put the final nail in the coffin, and the Chiefs get to 11 wins before they make their postseason run, as I have the final score of this game being 26-19. And then changing conferences again over to the NFC, but staying in the West, we have the Los Angeles Rams on the road at the San Francisco 49ers. And both of these teams have clinched playoff spots. The 49ers have clinched the division, have clinched the number one seed in the NFC. The Rams, with Seattle's loss last week to the Steelers, have clinched a playoff spot as well. So 49ers, I know they will be resting their starters. The Rams still have a little bit to play for because being a wild card team, they're going to be on the road no matter what. So depending on who they want to play, whether it be Detroit, whether it be Dallas or Philadelphia. So the Rams do have a little bit more to play for here than the 49ers, in my opinion, even though both of these teams have clinched. And I think the Rams will get to 10 wins on this season. But I don't think the starters for either of these teams will really be playing much. So this game really doesn't mean that much. But I do have the Rams winning by a final score of 21-17. And then heading over to the NFC East, we have the Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Washington Commanders. The Cowboys, another team that has already clinched a playoff spot, but a win right here over the Washington Commanders will clinch them the division, and I want to say the number 2 seed. So the Cowboys, they still do have a lot to play for in this game. The Commanders, they don't. So I do have the Cowboys winning this game, clinching the division, making Philadelphia a wild card team, and I have the Cowboys winning by a final score of 30-20. And then closing out the week and the 2023 season, we have the Buffalo Bills on the road at the Miami Dolphins, and this is a winner take the AFC East game. Buffalo, they're sitting in a wild card spot at 10-6. They haven't officially clinched a playoff spot. If they lose this game and a couple of things go wrong, they could be left out of the playoffs entirely. Miami has clinched a playoff spot, so they don't necessarily need to win this game, but a win here gets them the number 2 seed, gets them home field advantage in the playoffs unless they play the Ravens. But still, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams here. I think Buffalo's going to pull it out. Miami's coming off a blowout loss to the Ravens, so morale's very low. They lost Bradley Chubb to an ACL injury, so they're not going to have one of their best defensive players, and that just hurts this team. Buffalo, they're winning games. A lot of people ruled them out mid-season, but they've definitely turned the ship around. They're playing well, and with this game being in Miami, it'll be nice weather. I think this is just going to be a classic shootout game, maybe one of the best games of the year, who knows, but I do expect there to be fireworks in this game. And Buffalo wins it. They win the AFC East, and then both of these teams will make the playoffs. And I want to say if Buffalo wins, it'll be the Steelers that don't make it in if the Steelers win against the Ravens. But regardless, I do have Buffalo winning by a final score of 34-31. So yeah, those are my NFL Week 18 picks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Leave your thoughts down below. Make sure you like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let me know what playoff matchups you would like to see. Thank you for watching. God bless.